And remind you when you speak to please come to a microphone. If you're seated, please turn the microphone on so that we can hear you. I'd like to give everybody an opportunity on the board for each member to disclose any potential conflict and their belief that they can be unbiased and able to participate, or that they elect to recuse themselves from the matter. Any conflicts of interest in our agenda today? Thank you. And I would ask Dr. Nettles, please, to read our mission statement and vision statement.
Mission: to improve the health and wellness of Nashville by providing equitable access to coordinated patient-centered care, supporting tomorrow's caregivers, and translating science into clinical practice. The vision: leader in exceptional community health care, one neighbor at a time.
Thank you, Dr. Nettles, and we appreciate all our visitors today. We have quite a few. I would like to remind each of you that by Metro statute, you're limited to 3 minutes in your comments, and please step up to the podium microphone when you come to speak. And first, we have Dr. Tanovis.
General Surgeon and Chief of Surgery at Nashville General Hospital. I came to Nashville General in 2008, and I left for a brief stint after a previous administration made an effort to make this an outpatient-only facility. I came back after talking to Dr. Webb. I left Nashville General because I thought it would be shut down. Under his leadership, it survived, it grew stronger. I didn't believe he could develop a financial model where the focus was to serve all patients regardless of their ability to pay, while still increase our payer mix and provide excellent care to insured patients to help fund this effort. I didn't believe he could do this while providing quality care. This year, Nashville General received a Leapfrog Safety Grade A, one of the very few hospitals in this city to do so. I told him he couldn't maintain a cancer program. This year, we were reaccredited by the American College of Surgeons Commission on Cancer with no contingencies, compliant on all standards as a diamond quality partner. Doing this while accepting patients that so many of the hospitals in this town turn away for financial reasons. I didn't believe, excuse me, that he could build a trauma program. In fact, I very publicly argued with him about this. He insisted, not because it would make money for the hospital, but because there was a need, and he saw a way that Nashville General could fulfill this need, all the while meeting external benchmarks, providing validation for the quality of care that we give here. I told Dr. Webb he would not be able to obtain a robot to perform advanced surgery that is now becoming standard of care, allowing less blood loss, less pain, quicker recovery, quicker back to work. Even though we were the only hospital in the city at the time, there were some that said this wouldn't be used. And I questioned, was that suggesting that either our patients didn't deserve that level of care or that we couldn't do it? On Tuesday, I completed my 75th robot case. In all, over 8 months, we've done over 215 cases by the 3 surgeons that have embraced this. All of this while having to navigate the waters of suspended operations because our HVAC systems go down in extreme weather. At this point, I would hope it would be self-evident the need for a new hospital, and I would hope that people in this room and in the city would understand that we need to keep the leader who has started that initiative to make that happen. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and esteemed members of the board. My name is Dr. Andrew Pierre. I am a foot and ankle surgeon, blessed with having the opportunity to serve the community here at Nashville General Hospital. I also serve as the chair of the board of directors for Middle Tennessee Health Partners, which is our PHO, Physician Hospital Organization Group, and I'm also the president-elect of the medical staff. Just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk to you about why I think that this hospital is vital to me and the patients that I treat. and why it is important that we move forward with a build for a new facility as soon as possible under the leadership of Dr. Webb. Over the past almost 6 years now, since I've started NGH, I have treated many patients who otherwise would be overlooked and left to suffer due to their socioeconomic status. It is one of the greatest joys of my life to be able to sow into the lives of the countless Nashvillians and provide superior and holistic care. Dr. Webb has made his vision very clear for the direction of this hospital as it relates to whole person health care in Middle Tennessee through his leadership and commitment to the quadruple aim, which is enhancing patient experiences, improving quality, reducing costs, and supporting care teams. Over the years, I've definitely seen the quadruple aim manifest and programs that have been set into place by our amazing leadership team to truly achieve the whole person health care that our community deserves. As board members, I'm sure that all of you are aware of the several successes that this hospital has been able to achieve, but just in case, I'm going to list one for you. This past year, we earned, and Dr. Turner has said this, we earned a grade A from the Leapfrog. For those unfamiliar with this organization, it is a peer-reviewed group that essentially highlights lives saved and improved. We are one of 3 out of 18 hospitals in Nashville to have ever achieved such a rating. This alone depicts our commitment for quality of care and, most importantly, safety. It's time that we shift our focus to the need for this new hospital. It is absolutely imperative that we move forward with this new hospital as soon as possible in order to keep up with the growing population in Nashville. And most importantly, our current building is extremely old and being held together by the grace of God. We are struggling to keep our OR temperatures and humidity regulated due to old equipment, and be it that our lease is due at the end of 2027, it actually makes no sense to pour millions of dollars into renovating this current structure and bringing it to the 21st century. Members of the board, I asked you all to really think about the tasks that you all have at hand and the duty that you have to the community of Nashville, to those underserved. You have a duty and an obligation to uphold. Making NGH into an ambulatory-only facility is not fair to this patient population. Without a cohesive leadership team and a collaborative efforts of the supportive board, the vision set forth by Dr. Webb cannot come to fruition. I just want to publicly thank Dr. Webb for the amazing progress we have made thus far. It has been through his leadership and unwavering courage to stand up to a lot of adversaries that we have made the progress that we have made and achieved the accomplishments that we have made in the current infrastructure and that we are currently standing in. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Pierre.
Thank you.
Dr. Matt Katz, please.
Good evening. Matthew Katz, Chief Medical Officer, but I'm speaking to you as ophthalmologist. I've got 180 seconds, but I think it's worthwhile to take a couple of them to honor and thank the board for their service, for we serve at your pleasure. I'm speaking to point 14, not about a new hospital and not about Leapfrog. Point 14 on the agenda is the evaluation of my chief executive. I've now listened attentively to 2 chief executive evaluations that have been public record and followed closely the outcome measures that were followed. I want you to hear me when I say I understand the importance of objective outcome measures. Watching this, I have to wonder, too, where the physician's voice is in this. For after all, this is a hospital staffed by physicians providing patient care. So unprompted, this is my own anecdotal experience as a clinician working under this leader and his administration. I joined in February of 2020, that's exactly 5 years ago, if you count them, and quickly recognized the need in this community for expanded ophthalmic services and a grown surgical armamentarium. I brought these observations and needs to my leader, and they're not inexpensive and they're not a short order. What I found surprised me, and I've been a couple of places. I found a leader who was receptive and proactive. I found a better mind for medicine than I'm used to expecting in a hospital administrator. And together I was empowered to expand the breadth of services for more and different evaluations and procedures, especially in a community, and this is near my heart, where diabetes is a plague. And I know that you all believe that. I was supported to bring care to more of our community, and our growth was explosive. Before moving to administration, about a year and a half ago, I was the highest volume clinician and surgeon in this hospital. This is not the story of my own personal success. This is the story of the support and responsivity of my administration and leadership. I am proud of our accomplishments together, but more than that, I am grateful for the level of support I have received. Finally, and I'll close here, I have endured and faced professional and personal adversity in my career. What I was met with was a leader who extended compassion and support. I'll close by saying I know he has done the same for my colleagues who found themselves similarly faced. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Katz. Next is Lori Donnell.
Good evening. My name is Lori Donnell. I'm the Senior Vice President of Health Affairs and Executive Oversight for the Clinical Enterprise of Meharry Medical College. I thank you to the board and Dr. Webb for allowing us to be here today. I am here to just to introduce myself and also to re-engage with this team. I was here 10 years ago for 10 years, and I'm back to work with Meharry Medical College as well as the Nashville General Hospital team on the importance of Meharry's relationship as we move this hospital forward, and to work together as in appreciation for this being Meharry's key index hospital. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donnell. Next is Daniel Smith.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Smith, pastor of Christian Journey Fellowship Church in North Nashville in the Bordeaux community. I am a voice for health justice and health equality. I believe it is time for us as community leaders and those of us in this room to advocate for our community's health. It is about establishing and creating a healthier and more equitable Nashville for not just the present generation, but for generations to come. My family and I, and many of our members in our congregation receive our health care here at Nashville General, and it is as good of health care as you can receive at any other hospital in Nashville. It's a place where folks, no matter where they fall on the economic ladder, can engage compassionate physicians concerned about their health outcomes. An analysis by University of Chicago researchers revealed that hospitals are more likely to close in Black and socioeconomically disadvantaged communities, potentially exacerbating existing health disparities. We have experienced a reduction in health disparities through Nashville General Hospital under its present leadership. There's also been discussions of changing Nashville General Hospital's model to shift to ambulatory services. We feel this is so short-sighted. The care that Nashville General Hospital currently provides would need to be absorbed by other hospitals in Nashville at 3 times the cost of Nashville General Hospital. This does not benefit our community. In fact, it creates another barrier to access and affordability, and it is directly contradictory toward the mission and values of Nashville General Hospital. Nashville General Hospital was once a place shunned by our community, but now it has become a shining example of transformative change and a model for achieving sustainable high-quality health care. And we believe this is mainly due to the present leadership at Nashville General Hospital. This
Thank you,
concludes my
Reverend
statement.
Smith. Thank you for coming. Brenda Gilmore.
Good afternoon. My name is Brenda Gilmore, former Metro Councilwoman, state representative, and state senator in this great city and state of Tennessee. I recognize the importance of Meharry and Nashville General Hospital to the community. And I hope as community leaders that we find a way to move forward for both of these important institutions. I would like to respectfully ask for your serious consideration and thoughtful consideration on two issues this evening. A new hospital. The need for a new Nashville General Hospital is based on extensive research and evaluation over the past 4 years. Both Nashville General Hospital and Meharry executive leadership was involved in this evaluation from the beginning, as well as outside experts, including the city's representatives. It's time for all of us as community leaders to commit to creating a healthier, more equitable Nashville for all. Changing of leadership. There's been discussion of changing leadership of the CEO and executive staff. I'm a strong advocate for maintaining the present leadership and executive staff. I base my justification on the following. The hospital finished its financial year above budget for the first time in decades. They received a leapfrog score of A. The Joint Commission survey was completed without glaring recommendations. The present leadership have been able to achieve a 60% self-pay, 40% indigent care mix. Nashville General Hospital offers care at 60% discount as compared to other Middle Tennessee hospital organizations. My grandmother, who raised me, had a saying for almost every situation. I'm reminded of one that she would tell me, that you dance with the one that brung you. Dr. Joseph Webb and others have received national recognition. There's also a scripture, since there are many people of faith in this room, that says a prophet is not honored in his own country. And I will paraphrase, a prophet is treated with honor everywhere except in his own hometown, among his own people, and in his own house. I encourage you to give serious consideration to moving forward of a new building, a new full-service hospital, and maintain Dr. Webb and his executive staff for a mutually agreed upon time period. To change leadership at this juncture would cause instability. Thank you for the opportunity to come before you this evening, and thank each one of you personally for what you do for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Next is Amanda Sican.
I'm Amanda Ciccone, a member of Community Health Marketing, a marketing partner and government relations partner to the marketing team here at Nashville General. I'm honored to share a letter from Councilwoman Toombs, a member of the Minority Caucus, that was shared with leaders in Nashville, including Community Health Marketing. Dear members of Nashville Hospital Authority Board, on behalf of the Metro Council Minority Caucus, I am writing to express our strong support for continued existence and success of Nashville General Hospital. As the only hospital in our community that provides comprehensive care to all individuals, regardless of their insurance status, Nashville General is an essential institution that serves as a lifeline for many residents of our city. The hospital's commitment to equitable and high-quality health care is not only commendable, but also vital to the well-being of so many Nashvillians and their diverse population. My personal connection to Nashville General further reinforces my deep appreciation for excellence in care. I chose this hospital as my birthing hospital for 2 of my children because of the outstanding medical care and compassionate service it provides. Another one of our caucus members owes her life to the excellent medical care provided by Nashville General. Time and again, Nashville General has been recognized for its excellence, earning awards that highlight its dedication to patient-centered care. These accolades reflect the hospital's unwavering commitment to serving all people with dignity and respect while providing top-tier medical care. The divisive tone of a recent Tennessean article regarding the future of Dr. Webb and a new structure for Nashville General was very disheartening. It appears that at least one board member was not familiar with the services offered by Nashville General. It is difficult to reconcile how one may oversee an entity and not know how the entity operates. As stewards of one of Nashville's most important assets, it is critical that you as board members recognize the rich history and vital role of Nashville General Hospital. Your decisions should prioritize the best interests of the hospital and, most importantly, the people that rely on it. The caucus stands ready to work with you to strengthen this indispensable institution to ensure that it remains a pillar of healthcare access and equity in our city. I wish I could attend today's meeting. However, you can expect to see caucus members attend future meetings as our schedules allow, so that we may understand more of your dynamics as a board and how to best support our city's hospital. Thank you for your service to the people of Nashville.
Thank you, Amanda, and our thanks to Councilperson Toombs. Finally, Davy Tucker.
Good evening. First, I'd like to just thank you all for your service. I believe that the boards and commissions that do so much of Nashville's business, it's very important that it get as close as it can to what democracy really looks like. So I really do appreciate your service. You all will be faced with multiple decisions in the next coming weeks that will have a great impact on the future trajectory of this great institution. And I would ask that if you're not informed, that you would consider the historical context of this hospital, which still shows its head from time to time. Because that historical context has an important implication to what you're going to do right now that will ultimately impact the entire future of this institution. From my perspective, there's always been competing interest. But unfortunately, that interest has never been Nashville General at the core. There's always been these competing interests, whether it was the not as robust support from Metro as it should have been, or other healthcare providers in this city that for whatever reason, I don't want to call what it is or it isn't, but the interest never seemed to be Nashville General. So now as you are going through needing a new hospital, you're looking at your CEO, the relationship with Meharry, I just implore you to try to get outside of what these competing interests, which continue to show up and will continue to show up, that you consider what's best for Nashville, even if it bucks up against the interest of others and other institutions, because what you do now for Nashville General that will be best for Nashville will always take care of those that are the least likely, the looked over, and the left out. Your decisions will come to bear on a body somewhere. Whatever your policy and your choices that you make, if you can measure it quantitatively, it will always have an impact on somebody's body. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker, and I think I can speak for the board that going forward, we do have the interest of all the people in Nashville in mind and want the best thing for them. And thank all of you for your comments. We'll proceed now with the agenda. And first, I'd like to read a proclamation concerning Reverend Frank Stevenson, who I had hoped would be here tonight, but texted me just before the meeting that his pastoral duties have superseded. This is a proclamation honoring Pastor Frank Stevenson for his years of service on the Hospital Authority Board of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee. Whereas Pastor Frank Stevenson has dedicated his life to serving the Nashville community and raising his family here, and whereas Pastor Stevenson dedicated 9 years to serving Nashville General Hospital and all the patients who receive care there, demonstrating unwavering commitment to the health and well-being of our community. And whereas Pastor Stevenson has paid forward his expertise through his role as Vice President and Dean of Students in the Division of Student Affairs at Tennessee State University, where he has profoundly impacted the lives of countless students. And whereas Pastor Stevenson has dedicated much of his professional life to ministry and currently serves as the senior pastor of Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, where he continues to lift and guide his congregation. And whereas Pastor Stevenson leaves Nashville General Hospital Board with a legacy of compassion, care for others, and dedication to a healthier, more just Nashville. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Hospital Authority Board of Nashville and Davidson County hereby honors and thanks Pastor Frank Stevenson for his outstanding service as a board member and board chair, recognizing his invaluable contributions and lasting impact on the health and well-being of our community. Presented this day with deepest gratitude and appreciation, January 30th, 2025. I've learned a bit about the difference between a proclamation and a resolution. This is a proclamation. It does not require a vote. However, if you would like to affirm this proclamation, I would ask you to raise your hand in support. I'm sorry that Frank couldn't be here tonight. He's been an integral part of this team for a long time, and we'll make sure that he gets this nice plaque in recognition. Next, the minutes are to be considered. First of all, the minutes of the regular meeting of the Hospital Authority Board of October 31, which has been distributed. And the floor is open for any comments, revisions, suggestions, and approval.
I move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Next, the minutes of the regular meeting of the Hospital Board, November 21st, 2024. Floor is open for discussion. Comments?
Move to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Next, we'll move on to new business. The board members received a letter from Metro Legal asking us to pay attention to the expired Meharry PSA agreement. And I've asked Dr. Webb, I think you've all had a chance to read that letter delivered to you personally. And I've asked Dr. Webb I've shared the letter with him and asked him to discuss this with us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is regarding the letter that was sent to you from the legal department. It speaks to violations of Stark and anti-kickback statute violations as a result of not having currently signed PSA. So I would ask, what is the basis of those charges? And can Metro Legal articulate exactly what they say is a Stark violation and anti-kickback violation? This is not a Stark violation simply because the PSA is not a contract between the hospital and a physician. Nashville General Hospital pays Meharry Medical College via the PSA. In turn, Meharry Medical College pays the physicians via a salary. It's not a direct relationship with the physicians. The relationship doesn't meet any other regulatory requirements for indirect compensation relationships for Stark to be applicable to it. The parties' course of conduct since the PSA expired clearly indicates that they intend to continue the terms of the PSA. And there is supporting case law as well as writings extensively that are sufficient to indicate a valid contract under Stark law and the anti-kickback statute. It's not an anti-kickback because there's no intent to induce or pay referrals from Meharry Medical College to Nashville General Hospital. Nashville General Hospital is paying Meharry for physicians to provide care for specific patients, namely the indigent population. Remember, Meharry Medical College is a private institution and is not obligated to care for indigent patients. We pay them, Nashville General Hospital, for that work that they provide. Otherwise, they bill for the patients that they see. If Metro Legal believes a Stark and anti-kick violation has occurred, please, I would like for you to specify which base is that litigation founded upon. I mean, that allegation founded upon. And I'm going to go into the other issues at my report, so I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Are there any questions?
Does the
Dr.
board have a
Webb?
copy of that letter? Or email?
Yes, you should.
Yes. I think it was emailed to your home. Okay. Any comments from Metro Legal at this time? No. Okay. Okay, well, let me just.
May I ask a question? When it's the appropriate time.
No.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt your question, Mr. Chair, if you were going to start.
No.
Dr. Webb, is there an agreement in place now of some type between Meharry and the hospital that governs this relationship, whether it's a physician services agreement or an affiliation agreement, but what's the status of a written contract?
There absolutely is a document in place, has been for a number of years. And both parties have, for the most part, adhered to the content of that document. It is a professional services agreement.
Okay, and that is still in place now?
Absolutely.
And if, I know this is requiring you to sort of guess what the concerns are, but what is it that you think the board has been advised it's lacking from the current agreement that council has suggested that we consider needs to be reflected in a written agreement?
Before I answer that, I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. Would you be a little more specific?
This is I'm hesitant to talk too much because the communication to the board was from council to the organization. And so, we're talking about it in a public meeting because I think it regards public contracts, the substance of it. But I think I can say, in attempting as much as possible to preserve the privilege between the boards and the board's lawyers, that the concern was not so much that there are existing violations of federal law, but that a written agreement would be prophylactic in the sense that spelling out written terms in some form of agreement would head off any potential argument that someone might make about the violations of federal kickback laws and related medical payment laws. So with that background, with that understanding, I wonder if you have a view as to the things that we might want to see in an agreement to address those prophylactic concerns, even if they're not existing violations that are not in the current agreement that's in place.
I think the only cure for what's in place right now is in the perception of apparently the legal department is to have a newly updated and signed PSA, because the PSA is quite extensive and it is in place. It has been extended over the years, and to my earlier reference, both parties continue to operate within the guidelines of the PSA. Now, if there are some things that we need to change, we can do that, but we're currently working on developing a new PSA with Meharry. And the other point is that as of the time of the meeting with Mayor O'Connell, which was mentioned in that document as well, at that time, which was December 16th, 5 meetings had occurred with Meharry already discussing the PSA. So that was one of the accusations as well, that there had not been any meetings with Meharry. And so that was also a false statement.
All right, that's helpful to understand, and really, I think it'd be helpful to me and the board trying to reconcile advice that the board has gotten from council and your response, which I think is to take issue with things that are mentioned in that letter, just to have an understanding of the state of affairs or the state of facts. So if the parties are proceeding under the PSA guidelines, I think I understand correctly that agreement has expired on its face, like it's no longer legally in effect. But I think what you're saying is that the parties are continuing to observe the agreement even though they're not bound by a written agreement at this time.
The services that are outlined and defined within the agreement, with the exception of some of which which no longer apply, are continuously adhered to.
Okay, all right. I think so. I think I understand that. And you mentioned a separate agreement. Is there a separate written agreement that whose term is still ongoing under the terms of the agreement that the parties are performing under, or is the agreement, you mean the fact that the parties are continuing to sort of abide by the terms of the PSA even though the PSA is no longer legally in effect?
That is correct.
Okay, I see. Okay, and so when the payments that are made to Meharry physicians pursuant to the PSA, how are those addressed? I guess, is that pursuant to the understanding that the parties are still going to abide by the prior terms even though it's not technically binding? I guess I'm in particular wondering about payment, because most contracts will accelerate payments, or they'll have built-in escalations of payments over time, and how are the parties dealing with that given that the written agreement has lapsed?
We continue to pay Meharry through accounts payable on a scheduled payment. We do at times experience cash flow challenges due to some of the shortage in funding that we get, but we do have, just as our other vendors, they're on a payable schedule, on a regular payable schedule, just like any other vendor.
Okay. Thank you. This is helpful to get the underlying facts. I guess the ultimate question is, do you have a recommendation for the board as to how to address these things that have happened, which is the board has been told there's an issue that requires your attention. And if I understand your presentation correctly, I don't know that you agree that the issue requires attention. Do you have a suggestion for the board as to how we proceed with these sort of conflicting information that we're getting?
Yeah, I think you've received some alternative facts. I think the solution is to, when you hear that, you could come directly to me and I will correct those on the spot, or whether it's a phone call or a face-to-face meeting, just let me know that you're hearing that. And I'm happy to, again, I'm happy to correct it, because there are a number of misleading statements that were shared with you.
I'd like to move on to, well, the Metro Legal has asked us as the hospital authority to raise the topic in the next regular meeting, obtain accurate information about the status of the PSA negotiations. And I, for one, have been to Dr. Webb to talk about these discrepancies. I feel the need to respond to the to Metro Legal and with a letter, if you would authorize me to do so, that says that we concur with the need for a PSA agreement and for the need for prompt attention to this matter, as the most recent agreement has expired. I have confirmed that meetings to discuss the PSA and proposed affiliation agreement have occurred starting in April, having confirmed with multiple people who have attended these meetings. Granted, multiple people from here. I haven't gotten a response from Meharry about that. But the meetings are occurring. They're scheduling now indefinitely on the second Wednesday of each month. I suggest that we put this matter on the standing agenda of the Hospital Authority Board for an update each month, since they are meeting each month. And Dr. Webb is indicating openness to having a member of the board attend these meetings of discussion between Meharry and General Hospital. So I would ask for a motion, if you'd like, for me to respond to Metro Legal.
Can I ask one question? Is there an active agreement or not? I'm a little bit in the dark here.
My understanding is that there's an argument that if there is an agreement on paper that has expired, not been extended, but both parties continue to function by that agreement, then there's some legal argument that it is intact. But I am not an attorney.
Was there an expiration date on the last one?
It was in 2023, I believe.
So the document has actually been extended multiple times, and it remains intact. It's business as usual. Meharry provides services to the population of patients that they are identified with in the document, and we continue to pay them, which means that the contract itself is being adhered to by both parties. I stated that earlier, that when that happens, I'm not an attorney either, but I know this, if both parties continue to abide by the conditions of the contract until one party says that I will no longer honor this contract, you have a contract that case law and studies will show over time has proven that that contract was still in effect. So just to basically put this to bed, the contract does exist. We are providing remuneration to Meharry for the services that they perform, and that is ongoing.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I understand your, and we would get to a motion, the desire to keep this on the agenda and for these meetings about the, about an agreement, the board monitoring that, I would support that. When we get to the motion, I feel the need, though I'm not counseled to the board, obviously, I'm not functioning as an attorney. I am an attorney. So, Dr. Webb, I think what I understand you saying is the parties you can have a written agreement that lapses, and parties to that agreement, after it's over, can continue performing. And there would be an implied contract, certainly, but an implied contract is a very fuzzy area because you no longer have written terms that both parties have signed on to. So I think the best practice would be to have an actual written agreement that both parties sign that has a date under which we are operating. But I absolutely understand your point that you can make an argument that we still have an agreement, but we shouldn't be in the position, particularly of a contract of this importance, to leave it to undefined, unwritten terms. I, as one board member, would much prefer that this arrangement be memorialized in a written agreement that is both parties have signed, that is a traditional contract. It seems risky to me to proceed without a written agreement.
Well, I just want to explain this one point that I'm not suggesting to the board that I'm content with that. So don't, and the community at large, I am not content with that. We've had numerous meetings discussing opportunities to move forward with this. We're still having those meetings. And I, more than anyone, would like to see this item put to bed. So trust me when I say we're working diligently to get this document signed, and it's going to require some updating. We have individuals from both sides that are looking at drafts and feedback. We have another meeting coming up, and we're going to try to get a little closer to understanding what that looks like as far as moving towards a completed document. But I am not content with not having a signed document.
Well, I am very much relieved. Thank you. I feel a lot better. Thank you. And that's really reassuring. Thank you.
I just have a quick comment about this, and I'm not an attorney, but do feel like if there's, speaking about the letter, if there is enough concern to where it was brought to our attention as a board collectively, I want to make sure that whatever is happening is being socialized with Metro Legal, and making sure that, as someone who ultimately represents all of us as board members, that they're also comfortable with the language, the progression as well, and help understand, because again, we're not attorneys, but that obviously concerns me as an individual to receive something like that and not have the legal knowledge and background to be able to ascertain what is accurate, and especially if we are truly outside the confines of the contract, even if it's the written contract. Let me just say that, the written contract. So I would just appreciate to making sure, I appreciate it being on the board agenda, but also making sure that that comes full circle, so we have a better understanding, a better partnership. Thank you.
It seems that negotiating the terms for a new contract is going to take some time. I think that maybe in this short order, we ought to encourage Meharry and Dr. Webb to extend the current contract for a period of time and at least get a signature for that. Sounds to me like they would be agreeable to do that, at least in the short run.
So would this letter that you're proposing suffice for that? With it, so what procedurally, what should we do in order to get things in order, some type of framework? Because I'm a little bit confused in terms of what has actually transpired to this point, and what are the next steps? Because, the patients still need to be served. So what do we need to do?
Well, I think we need to reconcile these two reports. And I think some ways to do that are to have it on the agenda, have reports each month, have a board member attend at least one meeting to find out what's going on, and ask for substantial communication from Dr. Webb to Metro Legal, who was unable to confirm that meetings were even going on. We just need to get that part behind us. And well, I think it indicates that they did ask you, and you assured him that you were having the meetings.
No,
but
the mayor asked me.
Okay, the mayor asked you. Anyway, that's my idea of how we should deal with this.
So, to move things along, I would like to move that a letter be composed that would include a plan suggesting that we have ongoing, well, I don't know if this would be in the letter in terms of having this appear on our agenda, but so I'm going to do it in one part. The first part is that we have this on our agenda as a continuing item until it's resolved. So that's one thing. The second thing that I'm proposing is that the letter be composed to put in the contents what you recommended and what you stated. I didn't make a list, so therefore you would have to restate that.
Well, the letter would basically say what you said. It's on our ongoing agenda, that I have confirmed that these meetings actually have been occurring and will be occurring, and are scheduled regularly, and that it'll be on the standing agenda for a report from Dr. Webb each month, and that we concur with the need for a current PSA agreement between the two entities and for prompt attention to this matter.
Well, then I'd like to make a motion that these meetings begin as an ongoing process, because I don't feel comfortable in saying that these meetings have been happening. I don't remember getting the letter, so I need to go back and look at the letter. So that's why I'm a little bit, I won't speak to that. However, I do think we need to go on record to have this as something that is an ongoing conversation with some type of resolve.
Okay. Take that as a motion. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is a report from the CEO Performance Review Committee by Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Our CEO committee, I took over as chair, as appointed by our previous chair, Reverend Stevenson, back in October. We have met multiple times since that meeting, and our tasks were to evaluate the CEO's performance for ending fiscal year 24 and to set goals for fiscal year 25. Our committee had received already a framework by which we were already, the metrics and the evaluation pieces were set for the CEO prior to our committee basically coming together with mostly new members. And so we set out with that task. We were ranking Dr. Webb on performance in different areas: growth, financials, quality, customer service, and board relations. And each of those had multiple metrics associated with those different categories. Our committee scored Dr. Webb a 3 in growth, a 4 in financials, 3 in quality, customer service a 4, and board relations a 3, and that's on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the top. These numbers corresponded to a maximum bonus potential as well, so 1 through 5% bonus as defined by his contract. So with that, our group gave Dr. Webb a 4 out of 5. A couple reasons I wanted to state, and then also things that we feel like he has done well, and areas which have been challenged for Nashville General himself. So 4 out of 5. One, we wanted to start out as new members of the committee trying to evaluate data by which some members we were new coming together, and then some members hadn't been here the entire time. 2, we were already delayed in this evaluation based on kind of getting this piece handed to us. So we wanted to give him every opportunity in terms of his compensation to achieve the results. Things done well. The Press Ganey does an employment engagement survey, and I think we're going to hear more about this later. He received NGH received a 3.92 out of 5, which is a pretty good score, is my understanding. In terms of the financials, we did end the year positive. Some of that took into account some audit adjustments that were positive, as well as some one-time benefit from some funding at a federal level. But at the end of the day, my understanding is the normal revenue cycle would generate a $4 million loss approximately, and we were still positive $1 million. So we felt that was a very positive thing. Concerns or challenges were, at this point, we've heard a couple of people talk about quality of care and the leapfrog score. The leapfrog score for this year was a C. And so while that has, as you have all heard, improved, we were tasked with scoring for that specific time period. So the leapfrog score was a C during that time period, which was not as good as we had liked. There was lack of a physician engagement survey for a couple years, and so one of the metrics that we wanted to look at was the data just wasn't there because it wasn't performed. And then board relations, as we trying to navigate the conversation of the hospital, we felt like there probably could have been some better communication there. So all in all, 4 out of 5, and I would ask that our committee as a whole unanimously brought this to the board, so we would ask for your approval.
Is that to make a motion? We need to make a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
For the approval?
The motion actually comes from the CEO committee, so it would be appropriate to second the motion if you'd like.
So I made the motion. I'll make the motion. Yeah, sorry. Second. Okay.
Just for discussion and clarification, what the contract lays out as a result of this evaluation process, a bonus to the CEO for this time period from between 0% to 5%. So what the 4 translates to under the contract is a recommendation to the board that Dr. Webb, under this, for that fiscal year, receive a 4% bonus, lowest being 0%, highest being 5%.
Correct. Okay. Any other discussion? All right, ask for a vote. All in favor of this committee report and recommendation? Aye? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And Dr. Webb, I'll pledge to you personally, as long as I'm involved, we will be more prompt about getting this done. While we're talking about, well, we'll move on to the next item, contracts. Dr. Brown.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. The contract that we're presenting before you today is a contract with Bernhardt. It's a company that services our HVAC. One of the units went out, and so we're replacing parts on that unit. Did go out to bid, and the total cost is $119,000 to repair that unit.
Was that a replacement?
That's parts replacement. That's not to replace the unit itself. That's just to replace some parts on the unit.
Oh.
The unit is original to the building, and so as these units can go down, the parts normally have to be sent here or manufactured on site here.
Ms. Smith, I believe that your committee considered this.
That's correct. We ask about a warranty, we ask about potential lifespan of these improvements, and understood that we can't guarantee that this is going to work on a long-term scale, but this is needed immediately. And so our committee recommends unanimously to the full board. I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All
Aye.
opposed? Passes. Thank you. Next, report from the NGH Foundation. Kate Haygood, who is the annual giving manager.
Good afternoon. Today I am going to go over just some things that really were wonderful for the foundation last year. In your packet, there should be a small annual report that we just finished. And it's just a snapshot of what we accomplished. We actually raised $352,617 last year. And those monies go to support our food pharmacy, oncology, and patient care. Our community impact, we have given out over 1 million meals since the food pharmacy started. And we've given out 167,000 in 2024. We have had 1,200 patient rides in our new courtesy shuttle, the golf cart, and thanks to Team Chad for that. We have also been providing 120,000 in essential medications since 2020, and this includes 3,000 prescriptions in 2024 alone. I wanted to give you a synopsis of some of our donors. This year in 2024, we have had some amazing donors step up, some new, some old. Bridge Builders is a new partner. They have given us $20,000 for behavioral health and the medication fund. And they've also donated 200 backpacks in 2024 for the ER for those people that are unhoused. Team Chad, who has been a partner for a long time, gave us $40,000 and a golf cart. And that money goes to oncology. And this year we've been able to replace the furniture in the infusion clinic and also in the wolf den, because it does get used quite a lot. Nourish the Heart, our Nourish the Heart campaign raised $23,000, and that's for the food pharmacy. This is with Channel 5, and we're hoping to continue a partnership with them and have a yearly fundraiser with them. The Nashville wine auction, we received a grant of $100,000. That grant is for oncology navigators. Those patients need help moving through a lot of their information. So these navigators will be helpful to to make sure that they're getting what they need. And then we did receive a brand new gift, and it came through the Community Foundation, and it's from the Yarborough Family Fund, and it was a $10,000 gift for the food pharmacy. Brand new funder, very excited about that. We also, from the foundation board, have approved furniture for one of our waiting rooms. And endoscopy, really, that waiting room really needed to be redone. So our board decided that they would fund the furniture for that. Also, if you look in the back of our annual report, there are a couple of QR codes, and there's two wonderful stories in those QR codes. One of them is definitely about the food pharmacy, because it does so many wonderful things. And the other one is actually about women and their health care. So if you guys would be interested, you can do that at any time and just go to the QR code. And that is what I have.
Yes, Mr. Lesser.
Thank you for that report. That's great. And certainly we would anticipate that those numbers would continue to grow.
Yes.
Do you have a count of whether or not we have a full commitment of pledges or contributions from this board?
I do not. I think we did have everyone give this year, I believe. And that is something I may have to look at. But I do believe everyone gave a gift.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I believe it was at our October board meeting. Jen had discussed the results of a survey that was done, and we talked about a potential recommendation to have a, let's say, a $15 million goal
Right.
with the foundation, and potentially use those proceeds that would benefit something potential here at the hospital.
Correct.
But could be potentially moved if we, start a new hospital as well.
Correct.
So we wouldn't lose those items. So where are we on that? And I would love to see maybe a future meeting, a game plan around what that build would look like.
Okay. Currently, we have put it on hold for now, but we would love to revisit that. That's something that we were very passionate about, but right now it's on hold.
Okay. Is that due to her transition in her role, or?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just feel like it could, you talked about the furniture, but I do feel like, from what I've heard from different associates here, there's some ways I feel like we could be impactful in terms of helping to raise money, but also the need for the furniture, the TVs, the, nice
Right,
things
right.
for our patient experience, our quality, that kind of those scores to continue to go up. So
Exactly.
I'd appreciate a game plan around what that would look like.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think we were all informed that Jen, for personal matters, is not with us full-time.
Correct.
Is she still a part of the family here?
Every day.
Okay.
I speak with her every day.
Okay.
So we're still communicating, coming together to make plans for fundraisers, for giving. And so we're very, very, it's just like she's here, actually. So we talk every day.
Thank you, Kate. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next is the quality report, Ms. Denson.
There we go. Hi, I'm Felicia Denson, Director of Quality and Patient Safety here at Nashville General. And today I'm going to cover two things. One is a general overview of where things stand for quality for 2024 for our facility, and also two, a brief synopsis on our culture of safety survey that does include some of our employee engagement metrics as well. If you look in your package, you do have a general summary of verbiage around how we perform through the year, and also the dashboard is included as well. But I want to cover some particular metrics in particular, but also too, to just let you know that the way our benchmarks are set are either based upon leapfrog metrics, which we get the benefit of our A rating in meeting those benchmarks from a national perspective, and also through CMS and how we're evaluated from a quality of care standpoint. Under goal number 1, safety of care, overall, we did not meet our hand hygiene adherence metric for the year. We finished the year at 87%, but we did notice towards the end of the year, we were starting to increase our overall adherence. Our organization has worked very diligently to try to get our hand hygiene observations up. And you see across a lot of organizations that as your observations go up, you're getting a better representation of how you're doing with adherence. So we feel that 87% is a true number, but we're certainly working with a lot of our care teams around general reminders around hand hygiene through signage, coaching in the moment, education. So we do anticipate that to continue to increase this year. Also, I'm happy to report that we did not have a single fall related to an injury on last year. We've now exceeded more than 365 days, actually, and experienced in a fall involving a major injury. And then also, too, for our barcode scanning of medications, this is our medication safety metric. We did meet our goal by finishing the year of an average of 96% as well. Under Goal 2, quality of care, this is dealing with our healthcare acquired infection metrics. We did meet our overall goal for 5 of the 7 metrics that are listed there, and those are all of our CMS healthcare acquired infections. Plus, we do track our surgical site infections for C-sections as well. We went a total of 5 months last year without a single healthcare acquired infection event, which is very significant considering the challenging patient population that we do have at times. So we're extremely proud of that. We have continued to see great increases in some of the infections that we saw in the past, like our central line associated bloodstream infections. And also, too, we had conversations at the CEO evaluation around our C. diff metrics, where we went all last year without a single C. diff event. So we're happy to see that outcome as well. Under Goal 3, timely and effective care, the one goal that we talked about through some of the board members last year was around our severe sepsis goal. This is looking at how we're delivering care and meeting our sepsis bundle metrics. And unfortunately, like many hospitals last year, we were impacted by the blood culture shortages, which did allow us to meet some of the time periods around making sure that we got blood cultures collected prior to antibiotics. And if you work in healthcare, you know timing is of the essence. If you're dealing with a patient that's in a severe sepsis situation, where at times when we were short on blood cultures, we had to do empiric therapy to be able to make sure there was no harm caused to those patients. So we did not meet that goal. We were at 33.7%, but we're working diligently with Melanie and her team, and also with our Cerner partners, where we do now have alerts built out in Cerner to be able to trigger some of those time periods for our care team members to know the time clocks on when to intervene and when to take action around sepsis prevention as a whole. The second metric is dealing with elective C-sections. We did meet that, finishing the year at 19.3% adherence. And with that metric, the lower the better. It's meaning that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're not doing C-sections for inappropriate reasons. So we were at 19.3%. For Goal 4, patient-centered, these are our patient experience metrics. We finished the year meeting 1 of the 3 patient experience metrics, where we did exceed our goal as far as willingness to recommend. We finished the year at 76.9%, which was a significant increase from prior year 2023. We're working diligently to try to get our response rates back on these surveys. Unfortunately, with our HCAP surveys, we are doing mail surveys. We're looking at options around electronic, repeat submissions, things of that nature, to try to get our numbers up to increase our denominator there. In doing that, we hope to be able to utilize those at feedback to be able to get those scores up, but also too, our patient experience team is working proactively to make sure we're doing visits on all new admissions and trying to close the loop around service recovery attempts as well. Under Goal 5, Cultural Safety Survey, this is the one that's intertwined with our employee engagement survey as well. We did not meet our goal at having a 65% return rate, but we did increase from 2023. Some of the things that were noted in this survey in particular, as I heard someone mention before, we did finish with a 3.92 score. That is nothing to be bashful about when you're looking at a total of out of 5 points that are awarded there. So we were proud to at least see that number go up from 2023. Some of the opportunities that we have as an organization around patient safety is more so around the perception of safety. As you can see from the outcomes that we've had, we're extremely proud on having very positive outcomes as an organization. But we've identified we need to do a better job in making sure we're communicating that internally, but also too making sure that we're getting things out to the public and the outcomes that we're seeing as well. So we are working diligently to make sure that we are communicating with our care teams around some of the things that we've done as an organization, like putting forth quality dashboards. Every major service line in our organization now has a dashboard. You guys see the synopsis of the overall hospital dashboard, but every service line has something that looks similar to that that's related to their service line with benchmarks. Also, we're working with our medical staff office to make sure that we reinstitute the rigor around provider evaluations and our peer review process too as well, to close the loop on quality of care concerns that might be noted. We also have implemented our Good Catch patient safety program, where we're promoting people reporting potential safety concerns before they become safety events. So we are celebrating that as an organization and promoting that with our staff. Also too, we are addressing concerns around workplace violence and ensuring that our staff have a safe place to work. And that's not only from the interactions they have with our patients and our visitors, but also our interactions with ourselves, and making sure that we're practicing and promoting professionalism, but also to holding each other accountable to that as well. And then also in engaging our senior management team and making sure that we're all aware of potential safety concerns. We have an 8:30 huddle every morning where it's our leadership safety huddle, where anyone in the organization can bring forth safety concerns. And we have a period where if there is something you feel is unsafe, we set a clock 24 hours. We got to resolve this. And if there are things that carry over, we intentionally update every day until they're resolved. And then also too, in promoting transparency as an organization, we utilize a system called RL6. It's our safety incident reporting system. And with that, we have since transformed that system where we're communicating back now to our submitters that if they report a safety event, no matter how minor or major it is, we're closing the loop to share with them what took place in the investigation and how they help set the organization up for success for reducing harm. Also, we have fully implemented our high reliability organization principles, which further supports our endeavor to make sure that we're in a constant state of change to improve the care that we provide to our patients. Next, under Goal 6, this is our regulatory metric. We did complete our mock survey last year. We had a successful OSHA inspection. Also, we were subject to several Tennessee Department of Health complaint surveys where all of those were unsubstantiated. And then also too, we successfully completed not only our hospital joint commission triennial survey, but also to our lab survey. And in December, we received notification from Joint Commission that we've maintained our deemed status from a hospital perspective around accreditation, and also to maintain our deemed status with our laboratory services as well. I'm here to entertain any questions, concerns.
Couple of questions. One is, are you in charge of the medical staff survey? Does that come out of your department?
Well, there's a portion of it. Employee engagement does include physician responses, and there too, and as far as the cultural safety survey, but I think you're speaking about a separate survey. I'm looking for Jana or Dr. Katz.
Who generates that?
The employee engagement or physician?
Physician survey.
Press screening survey. Press screening would be through the medical staff. Who owns it here? Yeah, sorry. So if you're asking in response to, I want to make sure I'm answering the question correctly. Who owns the physician engagement survey?
Mm-hmm.
That would be through the medical staff office, and through the CMO and myself.
So if we wanted to encourage the staff survey that hasn't occurred, who should we talk to?
I think Jen
Is
is
that
volunteering.
so?
Yeah, either myself or Dr. Katz. Yeah.
Okay, and is that scheduled? Okay, all right, good. Second question is, can you give some examples of what you would consider the most difficult or challenging problems with the safety survey?
The safety survey as a whole, probably just trying to engage with the staff to get the confidence that we're going to do something with the results. That's something that we.
How did we end up with 35%? What do any specific things that the hospital needed to change?
As far as the 35%, I'm not sure what.
Well, we had a 65%.
Response rate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, trying to garner the other 35% that did not respond.
65%
response rate, yes.
And what was the score of those 65%?
It was 3.92 out of 5.
Okay.
Which was an increase over 2023.
Any other comments? If not, we'll proceed with the employment engagement survey.
I just had a comment. So, Ms. Denson, I appreciate this new format. As someone who normally gets the next, I guess, page 2 and page 3, this is a real benefit to have it all in one place and to track it. So I just want to commend you on your work and this output, and I think it's much needed. So I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Yes.
And maybe you went through that and I somehow missed it. But on the benchmark for responsiveness of staff, 68% doesn't seem to be much of a stretch goal. How did you come up with that number?
Okay, under the patient safety,
Goal number 4.
patient experience.
Goal number 4, yeah.
Typically, those benchmarks are set either by Press Ganey or CMS. That 68% benchmark is a statewide benchmark. In CMS, if you go to Hospital Compare, they typically have ratings where you can do it via your area, the state, or national. And we chose 68% based upon the Tennessee average and where we stand.
Yeah.
Yes. And we're intentionally moving the needle that as we continue to increase, and you'll notice that even with our sepsis score too, where it's set pretty aggressive, as you can see, at 75%. But we're trying to at least move the mark to say if we can fall between the state and the national average, and once we achieve to exceed the state average, and then continue to increase. But those benchmarks are moving targets, because with CMS, as other hospitals submit data into the data set, it can either rise or fall, and they only do that once a quarter.
And I understand that we're looking at that in a reflection across other hospitals, but we ought to be setting our own goal for staff responsiveness that ought to be a lot higher than 68%.
I agree.
Just out of curiosity, why would you say that this number is what it is? I mean, obviously you want it to be higher, the goal is to have it higher. Is there anything that you could point to that led to a potentially lower number?
Yes, I think probably back in September when I had my first meeting with you guys, we were talking about the nurse call system, and that we had some challenges around some of the audio around the nurse call system. That has since been resolved on our primary med-surg floor, and that's why you can see that probably by the next time we get our data set to finish December, that score should increase. We did things where we positioned staff closer to the patient's doors to be able to at least see the visual indicators, but that probably did impact that significantly.
So I just want to make sure I understand, so that when you are in the room and you press a call button, when you push the button, you're saying it didn't work?
Well, no, it gave a visual indicator, but it didn't give a sound to the nurse's station. And so what we ended up doing is we positioned a lot of what we call our care partners closer to those rooms and increase rounding too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can we move on to the employment engagement?
It was actually included within the culture of
That's
safety
all of it.
survey. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, great. Any more questions for Ms. Denson? Thank you. Dr. Katz? I'm sorry, yes.
I'll move approval of the report.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
Hello again. Felicia Denson remains tough to follow. So what is the medical staff up to? I want to share with you some small victories here. Ms. Denson had mentioned RL6, software that we use to track quality issues. RL6 is the same software we use to track patient concerns, questions, complaints. There is a major effort afoot to respond to and improve our patient experience and satisfaction. I cannot claim to own this, but when it involves my peers, I'm a part of this. It comes to me. So here's the part that's really newsworthy. When I have had to, and I do frequently, engage a colleague or peer and coach or talk about someplace that we might do it better next time, I've been met with great response and openness to coaching, responsivity. I anticipated a series of acrimonious conversations. I've realized no such thing. We have a new policy for those of us providing care on documentation. To put it gently, this policy puts teeth where there were none before. Delinquent documents have disappeared almost overnight. We are implementing, and in the process of implementing, new software to share with team members who's on call, where, and when, to do this in the most technologically savvy way so that everybody knows where to find whom they need to find. Provider engagement survey, to speak to Dr. Miller's question, early efforts are afoot there too. And you can expect results by the end of the first or second quarter of this year. We continue to grow and cultivate relationships with our colleagues providing care to the incarcerated population, increased communication and collaboration, bringing more services there, bringing those patients for more services here. But I suppose the two developments I'm most excited about are that we will soon have board involvement in several of our committees. Dr. Miller will be partnering with me and us in some of these committees. And finally, we have reconvened the Bylaws Committee. We met for the first time this past week and begun the task of crafting a document we were all comfortable with. I said it in that meeting, I will say it in every meeting, we work towards crafting a document that serves all, that all feel served by, and that all are comfortable by. I'll close there. If there are any questions or anything anyone would like me to speak to specifically, I'd be glad to.
What is the date that you think you need the medical staff survey for your next evaluation on your committee, Christine?
Yeah, I mean, we would love to see those results. I just don't know that we'll have them in time. And what's the turnaround on y'all's end?
I'm going to lean on a friend here.
Yeah. We have our next two committee meetings set, but we try to meet every 2 weeks. What is our date?
So we're at the very beginning stages. I'm Melanie Thomas. I'm the Chief Information Officer. So we're at the very beginning stages of kicking off the employee engagement survey. So there's a period of information gathering that occurs. It's usually a 4-month process from the time we kick off to the time we execute. We will be, at the earliest, it would be an April engagement survey, and then the results typically come about 45 to 60 days after that.
I guess I was asking about the medical staff survey, that we haven't had one in a few years.
That's the one I'm talking about, the physician engagement survey.
Okay. So basically, we have to create a survey that
It's an information gathering. It is a Press Ganey survey, very similar to what we do for the employee engagement survey. And we have to pull the information. A lot of it is going to come from some of our newer systems, and it's just going to take a little longer than what it would normally do.
So the CEO evaluation is due by the end of the first quarter, which is the end of September. So in order, July, August, September. And so in order for it to be useful in that process, I think you would need the results of the physician engagement survey by the end of August. Is that possible?
Yeah, I think that could happen, yeah.
Because this is a dedicated survey, right? I mean.
What do you mean by a dedicated survey?
I mean, I don't know exactly. It sounds like you're collecting information from a variety of sources, but isn't this just
No. This is a survey run by Press Ganey. We pull our medical staff data. So we would have to say, I think last time we ran the survey, it was 185 providers that we surveyed. So we have to identify who those are, and even if that is the right number. And I think that's one of the things that we had in question, because I think the last time we did our survey, only 57, but 57 sounds like a closer number to the providers that provide care at this organization. So we want to pinpoint exactly who we are asking and get the responses from the people who are actually here at Nashville General serving our patients.
And Press Ganey is patient-generated assessment of physician?
No, this particular survey that we're talking about here, we actually ask the providers how they are feeling. So Dr. Katz would get this survey and fill out how he feels about patient safety, quality, and numerous things within the hospital, leadership, communication, so on and so forth. We also have, which quality talks about, the HCAHPS data and all of that. That is patient-generated survey. Those are patient-generated surveys.
So I'm assuming the survey will go to all members of the medical staff?
Yes, it goes to all members of the medical staff.
Thank you.
We had also mentioned in prior minutes a request, I think it was by me, to do an exit interview. And so I'd like to just find out where we stand on that. So if we have people who leave, whether it be, moving out of state, they get married, whatever, or potential, other causes, I think it'd be helpful to understand.
And I'm going to speak for Diana because she's spoken about this in executive leadership team meetings. So we are doing exit interviews within the organization, including our physicians when they leave. Yes, no?
Hi, Diana Wolford. Mostly we have a cadence for the employees. Sometimes we don't always know when a physician is leaving, but if they do have an opportunity to give us the information and we can connect with them, we give them the same documentation that we do our employees. The physicians are handled a little bit different because they go through a different office, and so sometimes the medical staff office knows when someone's leaving when we don't know that, if that makes any sense, because they're contracted and they have a contract, and there's a lot of times they'll give that 90-day notice, and they'll give it to the medical staff office, and then we'll get documentation after that. So if we do find that we do it, we will give them that survey to fill out. It's an exit interview. But every employee that we know gets one and has an opportunity to answer the questions about exit interviews. And then let me piggyback off of the employee engagement survey as well. So there are two separate ones. Medical staff has a different one because the questions are different because medical staff have different issues. And there's a patient safety portion of that as well. So we have multiple surveys through Press Ganey that have to do with employees, physicians, patients, engagement, all the way through. So we use Press Ganey pretty heavily, and then we can integrate it. So what you'll see, just so you know, we have in our strategic planning session, we have drill downs for all people, service, quality, all the drill down. So you'll be able to see a better look at our integration with the surveys that we use and the data that we use. I hope that's helpful.
It is. I think what you're hearing is we like to see it. And I think, one, most importantly, it was on the CEO metrics. So when it's on the CEO metrics and saying we're going to use it as a metric and we don't have availability to see the metric, we can't judge in that category. So I think that's what you're hearing is one, I don't feel as a committee member I could do my job in that specific category. So it was in a real and full, complete understanding. But I think that's fair. We've beat that horse enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Katz. And as a reminder, when we did bylaws revisions back in the fall, we changed from having a medical staff committee, which hadn't been very functional, to appointing a special medical oversight position on the board, and Chair Stevenson appointed Dr. Miller, so he'll be giving the credentials report.
So I'm going to present this credentials report. It comes from the Medical Executive Committee. Dr. Nazur is chair of the committee, and I've spoken with him. I did not go to this meeting. It occurs the week before this board meeting, so I will plan to attend meetings going forward. The initial appointment is Dr. Neha Patel in internal medicine. We have reappointments with Moses Kelly, Benedict Melakakal, Rosalina Muckle, Demarius Olagundoy, Kimberly Perkins, Kimberly Looney, and Farid Thawala in radiology. Reappointment specified professional personal. Can you tell me what that is?
Physician extenders, I think.
Huh? Oh, okay. It is Amir Kashif in gastroenterology. And then we have initial appointments to the medical staff. Ebony Wilcock, an OBGYN, Marcel Eluhu in internal medicine, Hal Roseman in internal medicine, Joseph Ackerman, internal medicine. And then initial appointments, specified professional personnel, April Martin, George Schroeder, Colton Brown, and then reappointments to the medical staff, Anson Chowdhury, Jamie Ware, Millard Collins, John Cruz, and reappointments specified professional personnel, Pamela Cruz, Edie Grayson, Victoria Nicole Gutierrez. Any discussion?
Okay. So, Dr. Miller, do you recommend approval of these appointments?
I do recommend approval of these appointments.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? And Dr. Miller, if you would continue on with the nominating committee report.
The nominating committee was convened due to Frank Stevenson's retirement from the board. And so the nominating committee surveyed the Hospital Authority Board and has come up with the following slate of officers. We have recommended Dr. Raymond Martin for chairman, Christy Smith for vice chair, and Dr. Ari Nettles as secretary. So starting with the chair, we have Dr. Martin. Does anybody want to place another name in nomination for this position? I'll take that as we'll leave that Dr. Martin will remain as the nominee. For Christy Smith for vice chair, does anybody want to volunteer or nominate someone else along with Christy Smith? And for secretary, we've nominated Dr. Ari Nettles. Again, does anybody want to place another name in nomination? So what I will recommend is that we fill out this ballot and we'll let, I guess, Christy Smith and Janet will tabulate the ballots.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Fagans voted for Dr. Martin, Ms. Smith, Dr. Nettles. Dr. Miller voted for Dr. Martin, Ms. Smith, Dr. Nettles. Dr. Martin voted for Dr. Martin, Ms. Smith, Dr. Nettles. Mr. Esquivel voted for Dr. Martin, Ms. Smith, Dr. Nettles. Mr. Lesser voted for Dr. Martin, Ms. Smith, Dr. Nettles. Dr. Nettles voted for Dr. Martin, Ms. Smith, Dr. Nettles. And Ms. Smith voted for Dr. Martin, Ms. Smith, Dr. Nettles. And Dr. Fisher told me he had to leave a little early, so he did not vote.
So our new chair will be Dr. Raymond Martin. Our vice chair will be Christy Smith, and secretary will be Dr. Nettles. These positions will be in place through the end of June. That's right. And then we will have to have another nomination process sometime before then.
So I appreciate the confidence placed in me. I enjoy working with this board, which Janet will confirm has been extremely active, and Dr. Webb would probably confirm that too. In fact, Dr. Webb told me that he appreciates that the engagement of the board has been very good in the last year or so. So I will charge the nominating committee to meet again and come up with a roster to elect new officers in the June meeting as scheduled. All right. Thank you. Finance Committee report, Ms. Smith.
Excuse me. Finance Committee met, and we had the pleasure of working with Dr. Blackledge as Bruce Nairmore has retired and stepped down after many, many good years of service here. And so we had asked she and Keith, our controller, to go over an update with the audit, also the October and November financials, and then we'll need a board approval for those. So thank you. Dr. Blackledge.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Christy. So when we talk about the financial statements, I just want to share three things. So incoming, just looking at what our goals are, what I shared with the Finance Committee earlier is that we have three goals. One is to focus all of our efforts on balancing our budget as we move into the end of the year, which is June of 2025. The second goal is to grow our revenue, right? The third one is to execute on any cost reduction strategies that we have in the pipeline. So I'll talk a little bit about the highlights from October and November. Total revenue for October was $12.6 million, which was down when compared to $12.3 for November. I spoke about the drivers earlier, and that was inpatient and ER. I'll move to the expense side. Total expenses for October were $14.1 million, which increased to 15.2 when compared to November. So we were up 1 million from October to November, and we spoke a little bit about that. We had some other expenses that increased on us. One $300,000 cost was related to Paragon, the system that we were on before we moved to Cerner, having to extend our life a little longer than anticipated. With the activities that occurred in November, we ended the month down 1.9%. So that is our report. From the other category, I will go into some detail a little bit about that. We had an inquiry from the month of October about the expenses related to the other category. So when we looked at our November year-to-date expenses for the other category, they totaled about $7.3 million. I will quickly call out 4 categories that are related to those expenses. The top line expense in that category, we spent $2.8 million on rent and lease and building space. So that accounted for 37%. The second category where we spent $1.1 million on utilities. So our utilities over a period of 5 months, electric, gas, water, all those things that we need to run the operations and keep the lights on. The third category, for a 5-month period, we spent around about $900,000. And that's on license fees, permits, some membership components, all those particular items. And that's 3. And then 4, which is the last category that I share, we spent about $700,000. That's software, miscellaneous expense. And again, that $700,000 includes the bucket where the $300,000 one-time ticket item to extend our life on Paragon. So with those 4 items, that's about $5.5 million of the $7.3 that we spent over a 5-month period. So 75% of those total dollars spent over a 5-month period. That concludes my report. Happy to take any questions if needed.
Dr. Webb mentioned that from time to time, we aren't able to pay some of our expenses due to cash flow.
Right.
Could we include that as part of the regular reporting structure?
We absolutely can, and full disclosure, during the Finance Committee, I did share one of the things that we're looking at as incoming is timing, consistency, and being able to communicate what we see for the future. And I will also share one last nugget as I move away, is that we went live with Cerner, so some of it could be some of the Cerner movement. You'll see us ramping off. We have some obligations that end this month of January. So we're going to have that cost savings down the line, and you'll see a little bit of things just kind of shuffle back to where they should be shuffling to.
And that would include professional service agreements too?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I may ask a couple of questions and direct it to you or Dr. Webb, recognizing that you've just stepped into your role, and thank
4 days.
Thank you for that. Yeah, 4 days in. So whoever the appropriate person or people is, I want to preface my questions just articulating a general concern and it may be as a new board member. I've not been through a fiscal year with the hospital, so I don't know how much is timing and how these things change.
Exactly.
But I will say, as a person just reviewing the financial report and statements, that at this point in the fiscal year, we were budgeted to have an operating margin, a positive operating margin of $8.7 million, meaning that our revenue were projected to be $8.7 million more than our expenses at this point in the year.
Correct.
At this point in the year, we're actually $8.2 million behind meaning our expenses are $8.2 million more than our revenue.
Correct.
That is a net difference of $16 million off of budget. And so I just want to preface my questions and concerns at this point, as that seems like a significant amount that as a board, I hope we will pay attention to. As an individual board member, I feel particularly responsible to try to understand that significant of a discrepancy. So with that in mind, on the revenue side, the largest sort of deviation from the numbers in the report you presented is a category called additional state funding, where we were budgeted to have $17.6 million at this point in the fiscal year, and we have 10.2, which is about a $7.5 million difference. Can you talk about that particular revenue item and what explains the difference between budget and actual?
Right, and I'm looking at that line item. I'm going to need a little help with that. I see that the actual was 1.5 and the budget was 1.8. Just to be clear, that is the amount that you're speaking of?
I'm looking at
when they go across.
So I'm looking at month ending November 30, 2024.
Right. I have November 30, 2024. So you're looking at this year-to-date where the budget is 17.6.
That's the line I'm looking at. So that to me is the big, on the revenue side is the
right, is the biggest
contributor to the lack of the shortfall from the budget. And I'd like to understand better what that $7 million difference is.
And it could be timing. I will have to get the detail. I don't know that, but I am happy to take that away unless Keith, that's what I was going to say. Keith Moran is our controller. So Keith, if you can.
Yeah, the state is redoing their funding. Okay. So we were supposed to receive some money in November and December, which we did not, which was over $10 million. So we're waiting to see what they do. We don't know how that affects us. They sent us a letter describing their funding change, and so we're waiting from the state.
Keith, we probably should get that letter and pull it forward, because if we need to advocate and get some support to understand that better and see what the timing is like.
Yeah, they are supposed to sometime between now and the middle of the year. So with the state, you just don't know. So.
But we may know someone that knows.
Do we know what the $17 million, where the $17 million figure came from? Why we put that down?
Right, so definitely a budget entry, but I do not have the history of that budget entry.
Budgeted based on past funding. Okay. Is how they did it.
Is a change in the state fundings, was that known or anticipated? I guess going to Dr. Miller's question, is one part of this is the money that's come in, but also why it is important for the board to know why it is that we expected $17 million when we adopted the budget.
Well, they had a change in their funding, and that's all I can pretty much tell you. They didn't tell us in advance what they were doing.
Do we know if it was the funding or the methodology?
It's really the methodology funding. They're upping the Medicaid rates. They're reallocating the funds. The pools is what they call it. And I can get you the information on that letter that they sent us.
Well, I think going forward, as you know, I'm also aware that tomorrow is February 1. So even though our most recent data is at the end of November, we're actually, as we sit here, 7 months into the fiscal year. And so there's not much time left for us to figure out how to reconcile this. I guess a follow-up question is, well, the first request would be to get information about the state funding and what that issue is so that we can better understand it, and then understand what the plan is on the expense side. If we're $10 million, $7 million, and if that grows, like how we plan to deal with that lack of revenue that was anticipated that's not going to come in. I'm going to open this up, Dr. Webb or anybody who's
and we do have a plan
to
deal with that from our perspective, meaning what we control, what we influence. So we have a short list. Keith and team are putting that plan, kind of mobilizing it, having touch points. We have identified about 1.8, and I did share this audible during the finance committee earlier, that we anticipate of having that 1.8 or $2 million reduction. So we're looking for more. We have more items on the table, and our job is to execute on those. I think I started with like the 3 items. The third one is to execute on the cost reduction strategies.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that sort of headline and wrote it down because I couldn't agree more strongly that staying on budget, growing revenue, and cutting costs is really
That's
important. While, of course, continuing the mission and providing the care that is so important. So it's
Absolutely.
I understand this is a very difficult job. Another kind of big picture question, putting together various categories on the report that you have up on the slide. So total patient revenue is about $9 million behind what we expected it to be for budget. We had budgeted patient revenue of $138 or so million. Actual is $129 million. But when I look at the first 5 categories of expenses, they are all people expenses: salary, overtime, contract labor, health benefits, FICA, employment taxes. That's about $4.5 million collectively.
Correct. In
excess. So help me understand how we are providing less patient care, inpatient and outpatient, by about $9 million than anticipated, but our salaries, our people expenses for providing that care is so far outside of budget. What explains that?
All right, so a couple things. One, where you see the revenue piece, part of that is related to cath lab, and we can talk about that later. Where you see the people piece, we just went live with Cerner. So in November, we went live in December. So in November, this is our discussion around the revenue and the cost, the expense side and the people. We have some people that are likely tied up into what we're seeing in our November numbers that will roll off or not be part of our expense as we close this month of January. Second to that, we've got to figure out what our Cerner costs, because you're looking at our total Cerner costs, which is included. I've shared with Keith and our finance team, we want to understand that cost better because today it's tied up in our operations, and it really should be what I would call capital cost, right? It should stand outside of our normal cost. So you've got a little bit of that detangled in. Once we unravel that, we will have a clear picture. Now to step back to say that we have to look at every opportunity to reduce our expenses. So we're going to look at people, we're going to look at every part of that.
Just so to follow up on that, so I understand that the Cerner implementation is expensive. One question I have lingering is why it deviates from the budget. And so, to the extent that Cerner implementation has been really expensive, why is it, if that's what's responsible for $4.5 million of additional expense, why is it that much more than we thought it would be?
I won't say responsible, but definitely a contributing factor, right?
Okay.
And that's fair. That is definitely contributing to it. And
But
so,
are any, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just on that point, those Cerner expenses would be contract expenses, right? There's no salaried, when I look at the salary expense on our budget, we're not paying any salaried person, or are we, for the Cerner implementation?
what I have learned is that, as we spoke about like timing, some of the coding components we've got to look at too, like what is coded where, and that's something that Keith and I have spoke about. We want to look at every one of these categories to ensure that what we believe is coded there is actually present. So that's part of it. I would say that we likely do have some staff people that are tied up into that salary bucket.
All right, so to the extent that the salary is the financial report shows we are $2 million spending more than $2 million in excess of what we budgeted for salary.
Correct.
It could be that we have hired more people to work on Cerner than we thought we would need to hire. And that might be part of the $2 million.
That could be part of the $2 million, but again, until we do the due diligence and spend time with our deep
How
dives.
about
and the
contract
training.
labor? Like,
Yes.
are we contracting more nurses, medical staff than we've anticipated?
I'm not sure if we're contracting more than anticipated as it relates to nursing, but we do have contract staff. We do have about, I know, $1.5 million. It was about $300,000 per month. So we took $1.5 million that we know is going to go away related to contract staff. And I don't know about nursing if we have more. Yeah.
And that contract staff is in other expenses, or is it in our salary expenses?
Contract labor.
Veronica Elders, Chief Nursing Officer. For nursing, our contract labor has remained steady. Now, in our salaries, we did have some of our staff or people that we held on to a little longer just to help us with Cerner implementation, but they've since been released. But our contract labor for nursing has remained the same.
So they would not have been released in November, though?
Correct, absolutely.
I just want to make sure I clarify that. So
Yeah.
in November, they would still be in your.
They would be, absolutely.
What category then constitutes the majority of this contract labor if it's not nursing? Because I'd raised this before multiple times with Bruce, and, you know, I feel like I had gotten that conversation about nursing and travel nurses, yada, yada, but what I'm hearing you say is that it's not actually, maybe I didn't ask the question well. The answer is nursing stayed the same. Where's the other money going?
Well, when Veronica, let me make sure I heard you right, Veronica, you said there was some nursing tied up into that contract labor piece.
Absolutely.
Right, in November.
But we have remained steady. There has not been an increase in nursing contract labor, I'll say within the last couple of years. It's
Correct.
remained
Yeah,
steady.
but
Now, what we don't know is what was that like at budget time when the budget was
Correct.
created?
But it's, you know, the difference is $1.778 million and an increase of 32% is what I think Mr. Escobar is referring to. So I think that if it's not nursing, which would directly tie to
It's
patient care and
1.7.
patient volume, where is it at is the question.
And that's what we'll have to detangle to share with you, Christy. And-
Okay.
And we'll be happy to
Yeah,
share with you,
and
absolutely.
Don't misunderstand. We realize you just, again, tripped and fell into this position, lucky you. So
All right,
we appreciate you going back and researching, I think, that for us. The additional state funding piece, let me just make sure I followed up with this, is the Medicare piece of this, and this has to do, I just want to make sure I understand, this has to do with the money that the federal government sets aside where we submit those expenses and then they give a grossed up amount back to us. Is that the amount we're talking about or no?
Yeah, it's the pool that the state gets from the federal government.
Okay.
And then they reallocate, it's DISH, it's called CPE.
CPE,
And
yeah.
then they have come up with a new formula, which they haven't shared with us, of how they're going to reallocate it to all the hospitals that take Medicaid.
The reason I ask
Not
is
just
I
us.
spent some time learning from one of the lobbyists here, one of our top lobbying firm in the state with healthcare. And again, trying to understand as a board member what some of this looks like and then how it translates to NGH. And one of the concerns I had is that at that time I wasn't aware or maybe as educated as I should have been about this. And then how do we, one, put this into our budget, obviously effectively, because it hasn't been effectively put into the budget, and or two, receive updates on a more proactive and regular basis from lobbying and to better understand if there are things that we can do at NGH to help push that initiative forward and raise our flag and say, here's what we need. So I think that all those come to bear when you, again, taking a deeper dive and looking at this and talking to people who are in those specific subjects. So, thank you. But please let us, that's a big number.
Oh, yeah, it's a very big
So
number.
let us know where that lands and any proactive updates on this. And then what efforts we're doing to make sure that we're getting what we need for NGH.
Thank you.
So if I may, I apologize, but I don't really apologize. Because of the $16 million shortfall, I feel compelled to dive into some more of the issues from the financial report, if you don't mind. The board received the November 2024 financial results, which is a narrative, not the spreadsheet itself. But that pointed out that there had been 27% decline in deliveries at the hospital fiscal year to date compared to last year fiscal year to date, which stood out to me as a lot fewer births that are happening. And it attributes it to unrest with the obstetrics residency program with Meharry. And so that piqued my interest. What is the continuing unrest in the residency program, and how is that affecting the work that's going on, or the declining number of births at the hospital?
Dr. Elders will address that.
Hi, Veronica Elders again, Chief Nursing Officer. So I did reach out to Dr. Southpaw and spoke with my Meharry colleagues, And it's my understanding that the residency program will pause effective June 30th. But the providers will still remain. Now, there are some providers that are aging out based on attrition. And of course, you know, we started our NGH practice and we're seeing some volume there. So that is what I would look to for that drop in deliveries. But it's my understanding the OB providers and the PEDS providers will remain at Nashville General. We'll still have medical students rotating through that service line. It's just the residency program will pause for one academic year, is my understanding.
Okay. Does pause mean that we would intend for it to come back at some point?
That is
or?
my understanding, but that is that would be up to our Meharry colleagues, but I've agreed to work with them in any way that I can.
Okay. So that means that starting July 1 in the next fiscal year, there will not be a Meharry residency obstetric.
There won't be a residency, but there'll be a
Yes.
Meharry Medical College OB practice that is still live and operational, is my understanding.
Just not a residency practice?
Correct, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That is a good clarification.
Yes, sir.
The next bullet in that report talks about billable clinic visits, which is seems to be largely good news. That is, which is good.
That's great news, and that has been part of our strategy. And so that's part of what we want to continue, then grow it even better.
Yeah, and that strategy is clinics, Metro Center, Bordeaux,
yes,
Charlotte Avenue.
Charlotte Avenue.
As I understand it, now this is strategic, that it is to continue to plant these clinics away from the central campus and provide care in particular communities. And that is part of the hospital strategy.
That is part of the hospital strategy, and we are intentional with that strategy.
And seems to be succeeding with the increased numbers.
Absolutely, but we want to continue to grow that. We want more.
So congratulations. I mean, that seems like good to celebrate and build upon. There is a reference at the end of that section that says that we expect visits to drop in December and January, which we've already been through, but expects visits to drop because of the Cerner implementation. And that's the question, is why would the implementation of the medical records program affect the ability to provide patient care?
I can answer that.
Okay.
But I've got someone that's better.
Okay.
Typically, when we implement a new system, there is a learning curve that occurs where, you know, we've been on Paragon for 10 years. And so there's a cadence to how quickly people can do things. So we reduce how much time, or we give allowance for more time for clinicians and providers to fumble around a bit in the system. So oftentimes we reduce the number of patients we see in the clinics, we reduce the number of surgeries, and it's a ramp up period. So we start typically around 50%. We do that a couple of weeks. We go to 75%. We do that a couple of weeks. And then as we are seeing progress, we then ramp it up to 100. Sometimes when we get to that fourth week, some providers are excelling, we bump them up, but some take a little bit longer to kind of adjust. We've had providers that have used Cerner in the past. They ramped up very quickly. And so on the front end, we may have taken them from 50 to 75 to 100 very quickly. Others take a little bit longer. And that is a typical, I mean, I've been doing this 30 years. That is a typical way we implement systems. And any other questions you have about that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So it seems like when I read that, I thought in December and January, if we're going to see a decrease in the thing that has been up to this point a source of increase relative to budget.
So those are the kind of things that we want to take into consideration as we budget this upcoming year. Because on the other side, knowing that we were going into Cerner and was going to have reduced schedules, reduced appointments, then making that budget adjustment would kind of help that flow smoother.
Yes. Okay,
Great.
good. So maybe the impact on the budget will not, despite that note, it's not going to be significant, but we'll see when we get the December, January report.
Right.
One question on there's an other revenue section that talked about the CMS desk audit for Medicare.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask about that. So the desk audit in March recouped $440,000 of the $3.3 million from Medicare revenue. And this is a question because I have no background in that. Is that a large number? I mean, it looks to be more than 10% of our Medicare revenue was clawed back, if I understand that right?
It's a large number to me. So it's a large number to us if it's any dollar that is clawed back through the Medicare take-back process from that piece of it. And this is from 22-23. I'm going to pass that off to Keith. He has the details. We spoke about it a couple of times.
We just settled our 22 cost report for Medicare. And part of that cost report is auditing bad debts and looking at how we completed the cost report. And that particular year, there was a mistake in the payments on the cost report. So they found that mistake, and that's why $400,000 was taken back for the year 22. And then we also have the 23 cost report that is in process now to be settled, and the same mistake was made on it. So we'll have additional funds taken back when that is settled.
Right, I saw that. And that recoupment for the next year is $680,000. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, so that really is probably 20% of our Medicare revenue for that year that the CMS is taking back, if I understand it.
Right. And the good thing is we're filing our 24 cost report, which will give us somewhere around 1.3 million. So it'll offset.
All right. Does that, the 1.3 million, is that already budgeted as revenue, or is that going to show up as additional revenue that we hadn't budgeted?
That was not budgeted
It's
as
not
revenue.
budgeted.
Okay. And so, well, that's good. That does offset both of those. And so, okay, but is the effect of the recoupment, I guess as an accounting question, do we go back and redo those books, or do we take the hit on the recoupment now?
You take the hit right now.
We're taking it right now, this month of January.
And when will we get the 1.3 million that we're looking to offset it? Will that be in this year or next year?
We file the report for tomorrow, so it'll probably take at least 30 to 45 days before we get that money. So it'll be this year.
And then just to understand what the problem was, why did we report the payments incorrectly for 2 years? How did that happen?
They did the report manually when they uploaded the amounts. This year we did it, we automated the cost report, so we have no room for that type of error. So just a clerical error on the.
And to make sure, so our finance department uploads this document, and this year we're using the automation versus the manual process for the submission.
Correct.
David, just to mention something with regard to audit that I feel like is, we've talked about, I know we had a conversation about, but also with Bruce Naramore. One of the concerns I voiced last year with the audit was in the management letter, there were many adjustments that were made to different line items to the tune, I think, of about 15, 16 different adjustments. And so in that same meeting, I had asked specifically for an ownership and game plan laid out that would address some of the issues that were at hand and these errors. And so I know that we have an upcoming audit report, so I don't want to go too deep into that. I've spoke with our auditors at Crossland again this year. So I am looking forward to kind of the focus and cleanup of some of these issues and establishing a process. So we are doing this on a monthly basis to make sure that we are adjusting and catching these things, so we're not having all of the issues that come out literally in these management letters. So
This year's audit will probably be the same as last year's audit.
I understand that. I already have had a conversation with David. So we haven't corrected the issues, quite frankly.
That is correct. They have not been correct. They have now, but they weren't at the time of the audit.
Right. So for, again, second year doing this, those are the concerns I have. I appreciate, I look forward to hearing the game plan and who's responsible and how those audit issues are going to be corrected.
Thank you for your discussion. The Finance Committee has submitted the October and November reports for approval. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Have we discussed the other expenses category to the board's satisfaction? Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we get to the CEO's report, because I think he's absent right now, just a point of order on the minutes. There were actually two agenda items for the CEO Performance Review Committee. One was the recommendations for fiscal year 24 bonus, which we voted on, but item 8B on our agenda is labeled CEO Performance Review Committee assignments, which I think was different, and I don't know if we need to go back and revisit that question.
Yeah, I'm planning to cover that as a part of the board chair report.
Great, thank you.
And I did make a mistake in putting everything into that first item, so I apologize for that. Well, I'll go ahead with the board chair report. First of all, we've heard from some staff tonight that we're not used to hearing from, who are upping their game because of changes in some of the administrative staff. I particularly appreciate Dr. Blackledge and Kate stepping up, and it's encouraging to see that there are people among us that can step in these positions and carry on. Second, as I mentioned, it's exciting to be a part of a board that is so engaged, as evidenced by all the questions, by the length of this meeting, and by the demands that are put on Janet in her dual role as the executive assistant for Dr. Webb and for the board. And Dr. Webb and I discussed the advisability of identifying some resources to help Janet navigate this, because both of her roles are crucial, and I don't know if that resource can be found within the existing staff or by creating a new position, but I would encourage whatever is necessary to help Janet fulfill both of these roles. As far as our committees are concerned, as chair, I will be stepping off of the Finance Committee. I'll be ex officio member and will be there anyway, but I've asked Dr. Nettles to join the Finance Committee, and she has consented. As far as the CEO Performance Committee, Chair Stevenson's intent was for the CEO Performance Committee to also deal with the CEO contract, though that is not reflected in the minutes. So I would like tonight to charge that committee to also deal with the CEO contract and to come up with a report, hopefully recommendation in the next board meeting. And again, I am honored to serve in this role and appreciate the confidence that you've given me, and pledge to do my best to lead the Hospital Authority Board, and also to address the concerns of our speakers tonight, to make sure that going forward we do the best thing for the city of Nashville and Davidson County to provide the best medical care we can for all of the citizens, whether it's in this building, whether it's in a new hospital. That is our primary goal. With that, I'll turn it over to, yes, I'm sorry.
I believe you mentioned that you wanted to add someone to the CEO committee as well?
To the
CEO committee?
Yes, I'm sorry. Well, I did appoint Mr. Esquivel to CEO committee, because it's an ad hoc committee, our legal representative has said that that does not need approval of the board, correct?
Under your bylaws, the standing committee appointment that you made with Dr. Nettles for the.
Right.
That needs to.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve Dr. Nettles for addition to the financial committee? And second. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Dr. Webb, CEO report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to take a point of privilege to express thanks to the people that come here every day. And I know that we don't have all of the resources that some of the hospitals have to provide the services that we do. But right now, these individuals come in, they're performing, they're elevating the care. Our volume is heavy right now in every area. We're seeing 400 to 500 patients a day. And this is about the people that come in here, and I try to make sure that I share that and express those thoughts to them on a regular basis. I want to also express thanks to the people that came in. They didn't have to come here and voice their concerns, but they wanted this board to know how they feel as a community about this hospital and what it does. And also Council Lady Toombs, who has been a patient here, Council Lady Porterfield, who has been a patient here, and many of the people that you saw here have been patients. So I just want to express to this board that I think that was not show. That was sincerity and their concern about this hospital and how it's operating and what it's going to do in the future and what it means to this community. So I just wanted to share that with you. One point that I did not cover under the letter was the PSA attempts to eliminate the PSA. There was never a discussion about eliminating a PSA. What we wanted to do was to combine the PSA with an affiliation agreement because some of us felt that that would give better clarity and ease of understanding and execution of the two documents. They're very different and describe different responsibilities. So I think the group has now decided that we'll move towards a single document. And so that's what we're working on with the parties on both sides, is to create a single document that can incorporate both responsibilities. So there was also in the Tennessee and in one of the articles, it stated that there was some concern about why does the hospital need to exist with inpatient beds? Why should it not just be a clinic or clinics? What is essential? Why is it essential for Nashville General Hospital to have inpatient beds as well as clinics? Most of you are familiar with Kaiser Permanente. Started in 1945. It began as an HMO, health maintenance organization, and they only saw ambulatory, they cared for people in ambulatory setting. What they realized was that in order to control their cost, they had to restrain from referring those patients from ambulatory into the inpatient settings in areas that they had no control over. So those hospitals that they were referring to were driving up their cost because they could not fully integrate the care. So they invested in hospitals. And that's what you see Kaiser doing today. So the cost of inpatient care was exorbitant. The fact that they had no control over it, and they went into ownership of hospitals, that fully integrated the care delivery. And that's the model that we utilize at Nashville General. It is by design, it is very deliberate that we wanted to extend into the communities and place our footprint there, but at the same time, as patients get highly acute in their needs of healthcare, they've got to have a place to go. And if we're referring them into other hospitals where the cost is exorbitantly higher than ours, then we're not being good stewards and of the resources that we're entrusted to manage. So our goal is to, and someone mentioned it earlier, is our strategic goal. And by the way, in February, we will be scheduling for the board meeting to go through our strategic plan with you. But what you'll see is our strategic goal is the triple aim of healthcare, and that is high quality, improved patient experience, and a reduced cost per capita. And the way we do it is by integrating the care with our ambulatory setting and our inpatient setting. If you remove one of those, you will do damage to the overall structure of how we're able to manage and take care of the population that we take care of and keep our costs down. Veronica mentioned the OB program, the changes in the OB program with Meharry putting a cease on their residency aspect of that. So, as you know, we're continuing to work with the medical students and the staff, the OB staff, as well as the pediatricians to continue to provide care. And we will continue to do that and keep you updated on how that's progressing. That's the end of my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? All right. Full agenda. Did we forget anything, Janet? I think we're good. Our next meeting is February 27th, and we'll have another full agenda. Thank you all for attending. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Anybody opposed? Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.